Okay, welcome to a new anime review series. This is RWBY Anime Review episode number 1. Now, unlike Rama Half, where it's not on the air, RWBY is still on the air, though the seasons are actually pretty short. Like this particular season, initially aired for 16 episodes, but the ones I watched were only 10. Now, this series started just 7 years ago. Yeah, 7 years. It started back in 2013, and here is the first volume of the series. Yeah, I have it on DVD, but I watched it online because I felt like it. Yeah, series created by Monty Opium. He created the series back in 2013. Still on the air to this very day. Currently in its 7th season, which they refer to as volumes for the show. Now, initially the season aired for 16 episodes, plus of course you got the few trailers, which I will talk about in a minute. But the one I watched, they actually sort of combined. Like, here's the thing. For episodes 2 through 14, these were in fact multi-parters. Yep, which were spliced together as a standalone episode. Length of these episodes varied. Like, with the exception of like episode 1, I think it was like 5 or 6. This is basically spliced together. And like the final episode of the season, roughly each episode was about 12 minutes. Yeah, that's the reason why I was able to get the season done so quickly. Yeah, the last time I did this for a show where I reviewed an entire season for the show was Case Closed. That was the last one I did this for because ever since I did Blue Exorcist, I reviewed these seasons in like sets of episodes, like 5 or 6, because I might not remember anything. I might have to look it up basically about these episodes. Yep. Now, the thing with these episodes, now, this is not done by a Japanese studio. Nope. This is done by an American studio named Rooster Teeth. Yes, Rooster Teeth. That is seriously the name of this studio. Based in Austin, Texas. And it's actually the third show they've actually done. And it's still on the air. Though, here's the thing. This series has never aired on TV. Nope. Here's the thing about this show. It's a web-based show. That's an anime-inspired show. But it launched. It's the first web show that I could think of to actually have DVDs. By the way, do you know how much this one cost me? This cost me about $7 and change. The second volume was like $8 and change. I also have a third volume, which cost me like a little over $12. These DVDs are pretty dirt cheap, but it's really good. Yep. And this series not only has, well, besides the anime itself, and of course DVDs, it also has, like, hats, manga. Yes, they have an actual manga they adapted from the show to sort of expand upon the universe of the show. There's about 2 different manga series. Heck, DC Comics, late last year, started an ongoing comic series for RWBY, which, cool for them. Now here's the thing about the voice actors who appear in the show. The ones I saw in the first season for the show. Prior to this show, I have never heard any of these voice actors in any other show. Though the reason why I decided to jump in the series right now is because Blake's voice actor is going to be at Comic-Con next week, and I wanted to basically tell her that I have watched the show, though it's only the first season, when I get a chance to meet her next week. Now, these are the characters. You have Ruby Rose, the leader of Team RWBY. Weiss, a spoiled rich girl who has bad history, which they relay in the show. We have Blake, who is a faunus, sort of a cat-like creature, and Yang, RWBY's sister. Yes. Now, they also have several other people in the show. Yeah. Team RWBY. They'll spell RWBY. RWBY's voiced by Lindsay Jones. Well, I think that's really good with the character. Weiss is voiced by Kara Ebari. Blake Badana is voiced by Aaron Zach, who I'm going to see her next week. Yang Zhao Len, though they have her last name first, simply Yang. She's voiced by Barbara Duckerman. And here's the interesting thing about these voice actors, ones to look it up. They're all basically 30. Yeah, young. Now, there's like one team appears in these episodes. Team Jumper. And they're named after historic figures. You have Joan Arc, voiced by Miles Lawn. Nora Valkyrie, voiced by Samantha Oland. Pirate Knuckles, who's voiced by Jen Brown. Great character, by the way. We also have Len Lee Run, voiced by the creator of the show, Monty Ohm. Though with the third season, he's replaced by his brother. And here's the reason why. Was he fired? No. The guy died. Yes, he died. He died after the second season of the show. He fell into a coma because of medical issues, and he passed away. So they wanted to continue the show. They want to write the character. They want to kill. My guess is they did not want to write the character out, but they still wanted to use the character because he's probably still popular, even though I haven't seen much of him in the show so far. So they replaced him with his brother. Still does it the very day. Yep. Also have. Let's see. We have Osmond, voiced by Shannon McCormick. Now, I looked up online for this particular guy. No man, this guy's appearance is inspired by the creator of the show. Same hairstyle, same face. I'm sure they heavily inspired it. Now, apparently, this is also a series motion capture. I'm like, motion capture? Interesting. The headmaster himself only appears in the first few episodes of the series, and then he disappears throughout the rest of it. He doesn't really appear that much in the show. Now, the show does acknowledge some time has passed by. Now, let's talk about the 4 trailers, introducing the 4 characters. Ruby is seen with her scythe, which is also a sniper rifle. Yeah, awesome. Apparently, it's also she made this damn thing. And she was trained by her uncle, Uncle Crow. Yep. And she hunts a bunch of, like, wolf creatures. We have Weiss, introducing the white one. I don't really remember what she did in hers, because I watched yesterday. And the black one, for Blake, she was fighting a bunch of robots. On a train, nonetheless. Yep. Yang, oh, this was so interesting. She walks into a nightclub, meets a guy named Junior, asking for information about a missing girl. He says, and she does this while grabbing on his groin. Yes, and this character reminds me so much of the character Lonnie from Akame Gotta Kill. Ruby, appearance-wise, reminds you of Akame, but Akame's personality, it's a very similar personality that Blake has. Yeah, similar, but not exact. Weiss herself, I would say, as far as I can tell, I don't think she reminds me of anybody. Not really, no. And here's the thing about this. They don't establish any of the character. Now, I know that the main character gets a love interest. I won't reveal who it is now, but she does get a love interest, but it happens later. I won't reveal who it is. I'll reveal it later. Yeah, the rest of the characters don't really get a love interest. Not really at all. Yeah. Now, the first episode of the series has Ruby stopping a robbery from a guy named Roman, who was stealing this stuff called dust. They explain the premise of the show in the very first episode. It takes about a couple minutes of screen time. They explain the origin of the world, this particular world, which I thought was quite nice that the writer of the series basically did this. Oh, in case you're wondering how long the running time of this episode, 12.5 minutes. Yep. Starting with episode 2 up until, I think it was like episode 5, I think it was. Because initially when I watched was 10 episodes. A lot of the episodes are usually roughly about 12 minutes. There was one that was like 14 minutes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, really short. Yep. So, she actually stops the robbery, but doesn't capture the guy Roman. Captures his goons, though she's kind of arrested, and then she's basically helped out by a huntress. Yes, a huntress. That's what they call people, huntress and huntsmen. Apparently, they're kind of heroes they explain in the show. So, initially is arrested, but instead of being thrown in jail, she's offered a chance to go to the Beacon Academy, the train, where she's there with her smoking hot sister. Yep. And they go to the academy in the very second episode of the series, which they pretty much with the second episode they introduce pretty much the rest of the cast of the series. Well, ones that seen for this first season, except for like one character. hmm In the second episode, we basically have the first chronological appearance of Blake Weiss. The rest of basically you have Joan and that particular team. There's a bully team that's introduced later. They're a minor storyline in this season, and John himself is introduced quite unusually. He's seen on the ship, but lucky enough. And here's something interesting though: if the character is not important, not a character, they're basically put in silhouette if they're not a named character, which is quite interesting because a lot of our anime I've seen generally do have characters like you see people as people, they're not in silhouette. Now, my personal guess is the reason why they did this because it's a web-based show and they probably couldn't afford to do like proper people. Though there's a minor recurring gag in the series that I have seen popped up in other American series. Whenever a character disappears, it's like a almost like a stitched out like cutout. They do this for like a lot of the characters whenever they disappear. That's a common anime trope. That's a common trope you see in American cartoons when a character disappears. You don't really see that in Japanese anime. Nope, that is something that's American original. Yeah, I've never seen one I can think of any anime I've seen. No, not can think of no. Not counts on my head. So they get to the big town and get there by airship. Yes, a freaking airship. I'm thinking airship, and now you're probably thinking, what is that a blimp? No, it's like some futuristic. What looks like a spaceship. Yeah, this is basically an airship in this series. Okay, fine. They get there. She reunites with her sister. By the way, second time they've actually interacted in this series because they did interact briefly in the fourth trailer for the series featuring Yang. And she sort of basically, while they're in this little area, this is where she meets, well, she already met with John, alright? She met with Weiss and Blake in this particular scene. She basically, how her interaction with Weiss is kind of basically up on the bad foot. She accidentally tripped over her belongings. Yeah, because she has to bring, like, looks like about 5 suitcases. Now, I've seen it in other series where characters who are usually very rich and they usually travel with a ton of luggage. Like, usually it's about 20 suitcases on, usually. And she carries this stuff on a hotel bell cart. Where she got this thing is never explained. My guess is she probably bought it from some hotel she went to. Yep. And the way the suitcases look, they kind of look like suitcases you probably would see nowadays. I mean, appearance-wise, anyways. They don't roll. They never show roll. They have one of them contain the recurring like item for the series, dust. Yeah, the dust is basically kind of like a power source for a lot of these characters' weapons. Weiss carries a fencing sword. Yes. Blake, I don't. Hers basically is kind of like a Gatling thing. As for Yang, he just has 2 gauntlets that basically uses bullets as like a power source to beat people up. Ruby used something similar with hers, but it's basically in her sight, and she actually fires off as a gun. Yep, and well, and apparently Blake reveals that that Weiss's family is a, let's just say her father's company is a terrible company. And of course, she vehemently denies this. This is stereotypical, like people who are basically who are just say people who are just basically normal style people insulting the 1%. This is very typical. And I at least I appreciate the writing for this particular series. The dialogue is so interesting because it's the type of dialogue that an American would speak. Yes. Now, they don't list the place this show will take place as the U.S. You see the U.S. flag in the series pop up on one of the maps, but it's not the United States. The world is called Remnant. Yep, that's the name of the world here. It's called Remnant. hmm Yeah. They pretty much just established that right away in the first episode. Excuse me. Yeah. And then basically with episode 2, like it's like the very next day, like right after episode 1. And they get sort of initiated in the very next episode of the series. They basically sort of have a slumber party in like one room. Yeah. Now normally for a school, they have the guys and girls sleep in separate dorms. This is by far the first series I've seen where guys and girls actually share a dorm room, because that's not typical for, at least for American cartoons. Yeah, this is I think this is Monty Oum being different from other typical American cartoons, which high props for him doing that. So, they have their initiation, which basically has them launching to this forest to basically, and the first person you see is automatically their teammate. And Ruby basically, first person she sees is Whis. Walks over, sees John, he's with Pryor, and well, it's like they work together. Then you have Blake interact with Yang, and he actually gets to the place they're supposed to get to, and they're all chased by various monsters, and we see the formation of these teams. Ruby, of course, is, well, these four ladies here. We also have Ren, Nora. They basically team up automatically because they're together constantly. And of course, Pryor and John. And Pryor basically decides to save John because he apparently doesn't have any training, because this is a real later episode. So she kind of saves him by transferring her weapon to basically kind of like a spear. And sort of basically pinning him to a tree. Those was clothes, not with his actual like shirt or whatever. That was not with his body, whatever. Yeah. So they think this is one particular place is like the place where they're supposed to go. Turns out it's a home a giant scorpion. Yep. And we also have apparently off screen that Ruby and Whis got their hands on, basically hitched a ride with a giant hawk. And they basically jump down, and Blake's like, "Is that your sister falling down on us?" Yeah, that's pretty much what she says. Yeah, because they know that Ruby and Yang are sisters. It's been acknowledged. They don't like mention like every single sentence. Oh, Ruby and Yang are sisters. At least I appreciate. That's another thing I appreciate about the series, is that the characters are not the way that the series is written to be. They don't treat their audience to be stupid and not constantly remind people these two are sisters. Don't need reminded, like maybe like constantly, like every 5 minutes, like, oh, these two are sisters. That's not got high props Monty Oum for doing. So yeah, they had the teams basically sorted out by having Team Jumper, yeah, that's what they call this other team, take out the Scorpion, basically kind of like impaling its own like stinger on itself, and Team Ruby takes out the Hawk, and that's how they sorted the teams with the relics. Yeah, and well, Jumper basically, yeah, it's named after Nora, and despite the fact John is the leader, despite the fact he has no combat prowess, and Pryor was one to activate his aura, basically. Yeah, basically the way he described it is basically a force field, and she is like another name for it is like, okay, you mean your force field? It's like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It also apparently allows them to sort of like gives them sort of a healing factor. So right after and then basically they show the people's dorm room. The Team Ruby's dorm room, basically, apparently they couldn't like fit all their stuff in, so they made their beds into bunk beds, which I think was Ruby's idea. Whis didn't like it very much, but yeah, they made the bunk beds. They have Yang and Blake on one side, and the bed separated by books. The other side is Ruby and Whis, and the other room is it's Team Jumper. Now I should point out though, a lot of stuff I've seen, mostly in live action TV shows, cartoons, and in movies, the boys' and girls' dorms are usually separate. But since this is not the United States or any particular country, share a dorm room. I would think this would create kind of some awkward stuff, especially since, well, guys are sharing with girls. Heck, when I went to a conference, I actually shared a room with 4 guys. I didn't share with the girls. No, I didn't. And when I went camping, basically, I stayed with the guys cabin, the girls in the girls' cabin. This is probably Monty being different. hmm And it's later revealed that John, he confesses to Pryor at the end of episode 7 that he got in here based upon him lying. And he's also depressed about it. He basically regrets doing this. And apparently the school bully finds out about this and sort of blackmails him to be his lackey. And so has to sort of try and prank Pryor, as it happens in the very next episode. Yeah, this whole blackmail thing only lasts for like one episode right after it starts. And he turns on them. And of course, he asks Pryor. Now, Pryor had asked him in episode 7 to train him. He initially turns her down, but in the very next episode, after basically realizing, yeah, he does need his friends, he apologizes to her and asks her, is the offer still good? And she says, yes. Then she also pushes him down and agrees to train him. Good. Yep. Now, in episode 3, which is basically, I think it was episode 4, which was right one episode just after the teams formed, they acknowledged that one day had passed by, and this is by episode 4. The very next episode, it had been a week. By episode 9, which is the pencil episode season, apparently, since the pilot episode, it has been 2 months since the pilot episode. And the last 2 episodes are set in, I think, like a nearby town to Beacon Academy. Or they just go look like they go shopping. And this is where they run into Penny. Penny, they kind of run into her completely awkwardly while chasing a guy they think is a criminal, who apparently decided to rob a store, but then take any money. Yeah, particularly very weird. They chase the guy, I'm thinking, though, they're hunters in training, and they're allowed to chase a criminal. Or at least a wanted felon. I would think, though, that, and this is my personal theory, that it's kind of similar to have My Hero Academia. They're still in training, they don't have a license to do this, and yet they're allowed to do this, no problem. And do they suffer any punishment for this? No, they don't. They get off scot-free because they're students at the Beacon Academy, which apparently they reveal that Ruby got in 2 years early because of her stopping a robbery. And plus, also, the villain from the first episode returns to the final 2 episode season. Yeah, they reveal the whole thing about this wolf organization, which apparently that Blake used to be part of, but she quit because she did not like the new direction they were going into. Which I'm like, okay, that is pretty typical. You might see in other stuff, like in some businesses, where an employee quits because they don't like the direction the company is going. And one good example of this is Dave Bautista. I read a line of that. Apparently in 2012, the reason why he quit initially was because that he was not a fan of the direction the company was going at that point. So he quit, and he was pretty much homeless for a couple of years until he got his job, until he got his role as Drax Guardians of the Galaxy, and that basically got him out of being homeless. He was basically almost dead broke by the time he accepted the role of being Drax. And that basically saved his life and also allowed him to have a brief return to WWE, winning the Royal Rumble, and then quitting again because he just went off to whatever. Though he did come back last year to do one last match, Triple H, which Triple H won. And what I heard was described as the most boringest match on the WrestleMania 35 card. Yeah. So it's kind of similar to that. And she runs to the guy, and this is when they reveal she's actually a Ferris. Yeah. So basically kind of like a cat girl. Yeah. So they chase down the Ferris. They recognize who they are. And they're working with a human, Roman, the guy from the pilot episode. And they have basically a big battle. This is probably by far the first really big battle of the series since, at this point, first big battle of the season since the opening episode of the season. My personal guess is that the studio Rooster Teeth was probably saving their money for this episode. And it shows that they saved their money for this episode, and it paid off. Though it took them like until a year later to do another season for the show. Basically, the following season come out in 2014. So that season was like 11 episodes. Yeah, it was actually 1 episode longer than this one was. Yeah, Roman got away, but his let's just say his hired help got arrested. Oh, and like I said, please don't punish a group of trainees for interfering in their police investigation. In other series, they would actually receive some punishment for this. This series, nope, they're allowed to do what the heck they want because they're part of Beacon Academy. Yeah, it's also kind of revealed that the new character Penny, who's introduced in episode 9, she becomes a very good friend to Ruby in this episode. And she apparently can summon swords out of her back, like a whole, looks like about 50 swords. I'm not going to reveal what she is until I talk about season 2. Yeah, because it is quite surprising of what she is. Yep. And instead of basically talking to Ruby later about, let's just say, what happened, she goes off with some mysterious guy. They reveal who this guy is later. Yep. Now, I should initially point out, though, that in the second episode, now, this season is really good. Now, the series, the characters do have some, internal struggles. Whis, of course, has, she basically at first had a problem with Ruby in episode 4 due to the fact she was promoted to leader over her, and she doesn't like her advice. And then initially at the end of the episode, they basically solved the little dilemma by the end of the episode. And it's kind of similar here with Blake, except that it took until the following episode to resolve this little dispute. But so far, she's not going to dispute yet with Yang. Probably because she probably would not win in a dispute against her. Yep. And in the case of Team Jumper, I mean, aside from the fact that their little plot thread only lasts for a few episodes, it's overall, these are all really good characters. Yeah. And I can't wait to start the next season, but it's going to wait a bit because I'm going to head back to RWBY Half to work on, season 5 of the show, and I decided before I started this video that I'm going to, every time I finish a season of of RWBY Half, which right now I got 3 seasons left, I work on 1 season of RWBY and then head back to the show. Yeah, it sounds like the series is currently in the 7th season right now. I'll work on season 2 after season 5, 3 after season 6, 4 after season 7. 5, I'll finish up after work on the OVAs and the 2 specials. 6, I'll do after the 2 films, and I'll work on 7 immediately right after that. Yep. Yeah, basically work on the last 2 seasons with completing the 2 films. Yeah. And then I'll work on another series after that. Yep. But this season's overall really good. Can't wait to start season 2. Probably won't be for, I'd say, about a week before I start season 2. Depends on how long it takes me to finish up 25 episodes of RWBY Half. Yep. But, so, that's it for this particular review. I don't know if anybody has a problem with how I review this particular series, because it's an American-based series, and the subject I call this an anime review. It is, even though it's an American-based series, but it's an anime series, and it's done, even has some actual anime voice actors who come later on the series, which I can't wait to talk about their characters. But I'll talk about that in the near future. Yep. And it might be possible that I might be able to, add RWBY to my regular review schedule, along with my other shows I review, which is One Piece, Boruto, Black Clover, Case Closed, My Hero Academia, and 7 Days Since. It might be possible I might be able to add it to that particular schedule. It's possible, but that all depends upon when I finish the series up, okay? But until I see you in my next review, which will be tomorrow, because I don't have any time to do more videos today. So tomorrow, expect to see reviews for One Piece, Boruto, and probably RWBY Half, okay? But until you see you all in my next review, bye.